Greetings, gamers. I'm Bedroth.
And I'm Shootkapow.
And this is very good music.
The VGM podcast.
Wait, did you say your name?
Oh no, I just say my name. Oh, all right, let's add that.
Yeah,
in.
that's right. So first we do that.
Okay.
The name, and
Gotcha.
then I come back and I say, and
Tight.
you're listening to very good music, and then you say VGM podcast. Okay.
Okay, tight. I'll just
amazing.
we'll just splice it in.
Cool.
And scene.
Congratulations.
And this is
blooper reel.
All right.
tight. And this is Lord Ryan of Ryaness of Ryan Steel. Oh goodness. And this is Lord Ryan, his gangstaness steel.
I sound like my cool theater teacher.
And you're listening to very good music. And then you say
Hot mess. A VGM podcast.
That's
a
all right.
VGM
Hot Mess
podcast.
VGM podcast.
That is what editing is for.
You're listening to Hot Mess with Ryan Steele VGM podcast.
I'm on
All
fire.
right.
Okay, I gotta settle my nerves. I don't know what's going on here.
It's all right,
let's do
dude.
this thing.
Wait, aren't we doing this? Wait.
I don't recall writing music for a game called Wait. But that's cool.
So, yes, as the listeners hear this, we will have 2 weeks ago released our episode about cat games,
Oh my gosh.
and this is good.
Starring music from Bowser's Fury.
And this is a nice follow-up, to that, because we're talking about...
My character's just me, but with slightly different personalities.
You should
So Ryan, welcome to the show.
yeet, as the kids say. At least I'm told.
I have many personalities, but like I never actually use them.
None of them are chosen. They're all. Oh man, I'm already blanking on my dishes. I don't know. I'm done.
I do that all the
Good.
time. That's the only personality
Spontaneous?
I use.
Spontaneous. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say you have multiple personality disorder with being more clever, but my clever button just broke.
Oh man,
That does happen.
Anyways,
you have a clever button? I gotta use that sometime.
Oh, man.
So yeah. Ryan is also one of our patrons at the very glorious member level. The microphone will pick that up. And
Ooh.
I'm talking, so I can't edit it out. Hold
Oh
on.
yes.
Okay. Yes.
Blooper reel material. Yes.
I'll fix it. Our mouse has busted. Hold on.
Wait.
So-
no, I turned it
Clicky,
off
clicky
so
boy.
I could click it.
Oh yeah.
But
So
there's an off switch.
so wait. So you literally just like picked it up so you could click it and make noise while we're doing the show.
No, so I could steal it, and then I decided to click it because I'm weird.
Okay. No. Stop. Leave it. And okay. We don't want to keep Ryan on like all night.
Well,
Okay.
sure, why not?
it makes for a good blooper reel.
Ryan, yes, but the blooper reel at this rate is going to be as long as the show. We're going to have to release like a second episode.
Would
That's
that
just,
really be a bad thing, though?
Listeners, tell us in the comments, would an episode-long blooper reel be a bad thing? But for now, very cool. Or to quote another Canadian Ryan, cats who are rapscallions are tight. My kids are big fans of Ryan George on YouTube. Not a sponsor. All right.
No idea who that is.
And is everything okay?
Just dropping things.
Was that a catastrophe just then? Wow. Okay. I've got a lot more experience with
jokes.
Dad than you. Yeah, just wait a few more and it'll come up. All right.
It was much
So,
better back in his old college days.
Now, and so the next track is the first track that you hear, I think, in-game, pretty sure. This is called Cats at the Fort. And then the track that will that will lead into is Pawprint Nights, which I believe, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, is the nighttime version of like when you're at the fort.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. So let's listen to those two songs, and we will talk a little more when we come back. And I think I'm just going to keep the recording running, Ryan, while like the quote-unquote music is there, and that way it'll just be easier for like me to copy your audio over to mine.
Sure.
We can listen to the tracks a little bit. We don't have to. It just depends on how we're doing with recording. I figure you know these songs fairly well.
Yeah, for the most part. I've listened to them a lot.
Yep.
How I feel about my stuff.
It's just a matter of...
when I picked my tracks, and I may talk a little about this in the episode right now, we're kind of off the record, but I wanted to pick some things that, these are not necessarily the tracks that I enjoy the most, although I like the whole soundtrack. I picked tracks specifically to, like, showcase your range on this soundtrack, because I thought it was pretty impressive. And I like the kind of, the appropriately military feel of Cats at the Fort.
Snare drum.
Yeah, Shootkapow likes the snare drum.
I love snare drum.
This is the very first song I ever wrote for this game.
Cool, yeah. We can talk about that too, because a lot of times, like people say, "Oh yeah, the first song I wrote ended up being the end credits theme" or something like that. So it'll be cool to hear about that. And then
first theme I wrote.
No, it was
Battle Theme.
This is like, oh, this should be my placeholder track, and then I was like, I should probably. It's one of those things where it's like, because I wrote it in like, 2016, like before I went to audio school. I always thought to myself, oh, later down the road when we release the game, I should like reevaluate this song and like make it bigger or something. And then I could just never found a way to make it bigger or better, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. The thing is that this OST is like a journey of 5 years of progression of my composition to what I am now to a point.
That's cool.
So it's like it goes through a long span of compositional. So in some cases it's like I feel like I should go back and change things even after like the game is released, and I'm like, man, those guitars are not quite on time. And then at some point I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore. It can just be what it is.
Do you have a preference for like what order we go in? We can either go like something I picked and then something you picked, or we can go in like soundtrack order. What do you have a preference?
Either is fine.
Sorry, just
we can go in.
Okay.
We can go in soundtrack order.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that then. All right.
That'd be interesting.
Okay.
I'll do all the talking at the end because I think all my tracks are pretty much DLC tracks.
Yeah, so that's interesting because I haven't gotten.
You'll find it's very shocking. It's because it's all the music I wrote, like, after the original game was done, and I was like, oh good, we need more music for the game. Here's all the songs I'm currently working on. All the ones that I'm actually proud of.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, let's go ahead and come back, and I may bring some of that in because some of that was actually pretty cool, but yeah, we can come back officially, and we'll start picking up the pace a little bit for us now. So it's kind of how it went with my first episode with Skeletor 2. We ended up having like a 30-minute intro on part 1 of the finale for season 2, and this one I don't think is going to be quite that long, but it was a lot of fun. And yeah, okay, so we'll come back now, and yeah, shoot, yes.
Back on the whole Nintendo Force thing.
All right.
I don't really think it'll be around when RJ and I are done with Aura, if we ever do actually do it. But if there is a sort of Nintendo Force type thing going on there, then
I mean, they might still be around. They don't have any plans to shut it down, but yeah, that'd be cool. We can write them in about that too. All right. And that was Cats at the Fort and Pawprint Nights from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint, composed by Ryan Steele, our guest for today's episode. And yeah, all the info about Catlandia is going to be in the show notes, so I'm not going to say all that stuff for every single track. But yeah, so... But as we mentioned, the official Bandcamp title of this track is "The Darkness in the Trees." See,
that final boss track, that was the one you asked me to check out, right, Bedroth?
Yes.
Yeah. In my honest opinion of it, I agree with the sentiment that it's far too busy on your, I'm going to say, your rhythmic structure underneath of it. There's when you're having a really busy melodic idea, you kind of need a nice firm rock. So if it's stepping in time with it, like if they're both going at like an 8, I find within myself I struggle with. So like if it's just using whole notes as your bass underneath to begin with, because you move from your melodic ideas really quickly. Like the track goes through a lot of different ideas very fast, and I like where it's going. It's just that sometimes you have this wonderful melodic lead line going on, and then you have an unnecessary amount of busyness underneath of it that you just need to let that melodic line breathe. And so if you started off with just like the whole notes, if you start with the whole notes right underneath of it, like I often compose in like blocks where it's just like, this is my chord underneath of it, and this is it for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I might get rid of that later, but like I start with that, and then once I've established that this is my idea with the whole note underneath of it, then I'll add in the bass afterwards, just so that the listener is like, okay, I understand this idea, I have this ostinato in my brain, now I can process new cool information. Unless your bass and your other one are both moving in the same rhythmic pattern. But I mean, obviously things are always different, they're always changing, but at least with that specific track, that's where I felt with it.
It's good feedback, and it puts me, the metaphor that kind of came to my mind is when you want to watch a juggler versus when you want to watch like a tap dancer or a river dancer. On the one, you're watching everything that's happening above the waist. Like, you're watching everything he's juggling, all that, a whole lot going on. With the tap dancer, you're watching the feet, because that's where the show is. But yeah, if you watch a juggling tap dancer, your eyes are always going to be wondering where to land, like where to settle. And so, think about that with your music. You've got the above stuff difficult. With like your melody, your horns, your guitars and stuff, and then you have your below stuff with the bass, the drums, and you want to balance it out so your listener kind of knows, their mind knows what to settle on.
Yeah, that's the biggest struggle I had. Like when I went to audio school, that's what he told me, like right out the way, is like, I'm listening to your music and all I know is I don't know what I'm supposed to be listening for. So a lot of that you can solve in mixing. So if you want a really busy, interesting rhythmic pattern underneath, you just have to drop it in the mix. So you got to keep your melodic idea still strong and in front. And if you're going to switch instruments, you got to bring, if that instrument's got to come in, the other one's got to come down, it's got to dip. And that's why the mixing aspect is so terribly hard to do on something like flat.io, where it's just straight MIDI, no velocity. Because if I'm playing a piano part on my piano, I can play it heavier when it needs to be heavy, but then I can play it lighter when it needs to be lighter. And that part is super important when you're switching which instrument is supposed to be the melody and which one's supposed to be your harmony. Sweet.
Yeah, and I think it's the impulse is you have all these ideas and you want to like use them all. I know that some composers will keep, while they're working, they'll keep another screen open, and if they have a really, really cool idea, but it just doesn't fit from the song or it takes away from another part of it, they'll put it down in the other notes section and use that as like the seed for a future idea. So that way you don't lose your creativity, you just kind of postpone it. And sometimes you come back to it later and you're like, man, this was really cool in the moment, but now I'm not really feeling it. And sometimes you come back later and you listen to it and it inspires a whole new thing. So
I have like 200 1-minute demos.
I'm going to pause for a second and let Shootkapow listen to this track because there's a specific reason I picked this one and I want him to hear it. I want to see if he picks up on it.
Darkness in the trees.
The thing is, this sounds a lot like Fantasy Life.
I'll take that as a compliment as how much you love it.
Yep.
I think I originally had wrote this to be on cello, and it was supposed to be like a heavy, dark song. But then when I adapted it to this purpose, I changed it to like a marimba.
Yeah, you've got the marimba vibraphone sort of instrument, and then see here, when it's kind of doing the trills and arpeggios going up and down, you got a 4 on the floor. But then when you get here, the bass, doom, 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 the marimba spreads out a little bit more, and it's not quite as busy. So it's kind of that trade-off that Ryan was talking about. We're talking about a transition at about the 50-second mark.
Oh, yeah.
And then at 1 minute, there's some kind of sounds like a strummed string instrument that comes in. I really love the layering of the instruments in this track, and I am a sucker for mallet percussion. That was my jam back in college. See, to me, this is transitioning. It doesn't sound as much like Fantasy Life now as it does like another game that I know you love. Can you tell?
It does sound a lot like the grunty
115
themes from Banjo-Kazooie.
Like what?
It does sound a lot like the grunty themes from Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie, exactly. Yeah. So
yes, I saw in the email.
Okay. Yeah. Once you.
I saw in the email. I'm too smart for you.
You pay attention to me.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and come back from that.
Back to the final boss theme.
Real quick.
Melody is my strong suit, and I think I got that main sort of melody after, the whole trumpet, violin thing in the intro. Like, the one that comes in right after that I carry throughout the rest of the song, sort of.
Mm-hmm. You say melody's your strong suit. You do really good percussion work. You're learning it, but it's you pick up more as you go, and I do think that a school like Ryan's talking about is also a good thing because then you get like structured feedback in specific direction. It's really hard to create in a vacuum, in my experience. When you're working with other people, a lot of times you keep things fresh that way.
Go to music school and us going to go to art school.
Such lucrative careers.
Nobody will be living out of their parents' basement.
Playing Minecraft on the internet for a living.
All right.
But the final boss theme, phase 2 thing, Bedroth said he really liked it. The second phase one.
Second phase 2, yeah. When after you slowed it down a little and stuff, or
oh no, like
you just mean like the phase 2.
Yeah, the phase 2
gotcha.
one.
Okay.
The one that I showed you in the car.
Let's come back. That was The Darkness in the Trees, and we were talking quite a bit about this as we were listening to it. So that was Bites and Scratches from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint. the first battle theme that we're going to be listening to tonight. Now, Ryan, do you know what this is called on your computer?
Yeah, it's called Battle Theme or Artillery Pounding.
Ooh, I kind of like Artillery Pounding. Well, all right, let's give it a listen, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about the composition of this track.
All right.
Yeah, I really do like this one a lot. It's fun.
All synths, baby.
Yeah, RPG battle horns and synths.
You got all these games with one battle theme like Catlandia and Paper Mario Color Splash, and especially Chrono Trigger. And then you've got Mother 3 over here with...
like a different theme for every enemy almost.
Yes. That's kind of what I was going for too.
But this is is really cool.
Python Scratches is really good.
I
just realized
in hindsight, it's like I probably would have not made it all synths when it's the only synthetic track that's entirely synthetic on this album. But
see, to me that's kind of cool.
If I was a bit more symphonic,
I think it harkens back to me, it almost sounded intentional, like it was trying to harken back to like the RPG games of yore in like the 16-bit era, because this totally sounds like it could be in like a Final Fantasy game on the SNES.
Which is what people
or
tell
Genesis,
me, and now
maybe,
I tell
like
myself that's what I did.
Shining Force on Genesis. Nice. You change
it's definitely
your
one
internal...
of the most... Yeah, my internal reason of why I did it is now changed because at one demo that we did, they're like, oh man, I like the Final Fantasy vibes. I'm like, yeah, that was intentional, sure.
When people hear things in your music that you didn't even mean to put there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Anyway.
probably the fastest song
We're in the part around...
on this game.
Yeah. We'll listen to the part around the 145 mark with all of the, like, the synthy arpeggios and stuff, all the runs. It's really cool. Like those 30-second runs that you were talking about not having in the Darkness in the Trees.
Yeah, especially at 180. It's fast.
I just realized how common of a name Ryan is. Because my buddy
Very common.
Yes. My buddy who has, like, an idea for an RPG that, like, he's gonna, you know, sometime soon, like, try and start learning coding, and I'm gonna, like, go to music school, and we're gonna, like, maybe get a team and work on the game together. Like, he has an idea for it, and it just sounds really cool. So I was like, hey, you need some music for that? Anyway, yeah.
So wait, RJ?
Yes.
His name is Ryan?
Yes, his first name is Ryan.
Wow. Well, since we're off mic, I can actually say it's funny, you know, how many parents there are out there who don't realize that you have to have a B at the front, or it's not really a name. It's not like a whole name. It's a Brian.
Brian.
Brock. Bryce.
The amount of times that I have been called Brian because apparently I cannot pronounce my R's.
The amount of times I've been called Kyle or Tyler.
Yeah.
I just, why? Why?
Yeah, it happens a lot. I have, my day job, I work on the phones, and so I always introduce myself as Brian, and lately I have navigated to, I work with people's like retirement plans, and lately I've started working a lot more on pensions than on 401ks, and it's a really good thing this is off the record because this is super boring.
Yeah.
But pensions are much older types of retirement plans, and most of the time when you're drawing your pension, it's because you've retired. So a lot of the people I talk to are hard of hearing. And every day, at least one person, I'll say, "This is Brian, how can I help you?" And I'll say, "Ryan? You say your name is Ryan?" It's like, yes, ma'am, that's fine. How can I help you today? And it's just, yep, happens a lot.
Does the United States have a federal pension plan?
Not like an and everybody gets it federal pension. I think our similar thing there is Social Security, which everybody pays into out of their payment. The difference is, like, if you are a federal employee, then yes, you draw a pension as a federal employee. But like if you work for a private company,
pension as a Canada.
Oh,
like everybody gets a base pension.
Yeah, because y'all are all socialists up there, so
yeah.
I think that's really cool.
It's a Canadian pension plan. Everyone gets a base, but it's not like a lot. It's like probably like $1,500 a month. Like it's not great, and then your job, but at least you have some sort of something.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's $1,500 a month is better than a lot of people, honestly, that I talk to every day will get. It's crazy. Like,
well. And then if you can't afford like a quality lodge, like we have subsidized lodges, so it's like $600 a month, and they take care of you, and then you still have the rest of it to do whatever.
Yeah, and miraculously,
anyways,
your government
socialism
is not, buried in debt. It's crazy. It's at least compared to us,
lots of debt.
Yeah, but compared to the U.S. and all our capitalism, we have so much debt, man.
It's hard to do socialism when you spend $600 billion on killing other people. And you say you can't spend 20 on socialism.
Yeah.
You could spend half as much and still have a bigger military than anyone else.
Yep.
And then have $300 billion to give to the poor. But anyways, what's our next track?
Yeah. It's funny. I may actually, with some creative bleeping for things that we like to keep private, like our names, I may actually release a commentary version of this episode where we play like the music over some of our talking, because we're getting into some interesting stuff. We talked about some real life bites and scratches there. But yeah, bites and scratches. So that was Bites and Scratches from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint. But yeah, so let's listen to these, and when we come back, we'll talk a little about them, and then we'll get to Ryan's first song. Once again, this is Howdy from the Farm, followed by Sleepy Boy.
This is probably one of my favorite tracks, like melodically. It's very, it borrows a lot melodically, not like the actual modes, but how compositional to Fort Pawprint.
Yeah,
very similar structure.
Yeah, the style here is really cool. I like that as well. Again, you got that marimba kind of in the background, along with those woodwind leads. It's really cool. I like this one a lot.
Oh man, my favorite part was adding in those mariachi trumpets at some point, like in the 45 mark. They spark
What's funny
joy.
is we actually just got there as we're listening. It's cool.
I like trumpet. I played that instrument.
Yep, Shootkapow as a trumpet player
this is a
trumpet.
This part is it's a perfect example of like the very first trumpet line is loud and everything beyond afterwards is quieter, because I found that it got too distracting to have it at that same volume continuing onwards.
Yeah, trumpet is one of those instruments. It's like, notice me.
Yeah.
Notice me, senpai.
So and also because I like it. Ooh, ooh.
I also love the
right facing finger, left facing
the pitch downing of the flutes at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
Using the old.
I like how
bender.
the endings of your songs a lot of time. It keeps on like the core melodic instruments, and everything else kind of drops out. I like that a lot.
All right, I think I'm on the nighttime theme now.
We can go ahead and
the sleepy boy.
Come back and talk a little more as we listen to Sleepy Boy. Well, we'll give it about
sleepy.
a minute. This is good.
Oh, he's so sleepy.
And that was Howdy from the Farm and Sleepy Boy from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint. Well, you mentioned sometimes you like to get a little bit dark and moody with some of the battle themes. And if I'm not mistaken, our next track, which is your actually first pick of the night, is called A Spark in the Air. This, to me, has kind of that darker ring to it. So when we come back, I will be interested to hear a little about this one.
Spoiler alert, it's not a battle track. It is the preamble to a battle track.
Oh, so this is like the cutscene when you're talking to somebody that you're about to fight.
Like those dogs in Whisker Woods.
All right, well, let's get into it, and we'll talk a little more when we come back.
All right. Yeah, Spark in the Air. This for a long while was my favorite track until I had the DLCs. I think this was Dan Lawton's favorite track too.
It's really cool.
It is also a track that I made begrudgingly.
I can totally hear that. It's also what?
It's a track that I made begrudgingly. It turned out way better than I expected.
Oh, I will be interested to hear about that. What were you saying, Shootkapow?
All right. I don't know. On the topic of art, I don't know like what RJ's thinking for Aura, like sprites and stuff, or like actual cartoony artwork like Catlandia. Hand drawn stuff like Hollow Knight, or pixelated like Cave Story. I'm using indie games references here. Anyway.
Yeah.
If he does go for like that cartoony hand drawn style, then I think Dusk might do that. I don't know.
I can tell you that it is easier to do hand drawn than pixel art. Having worked with both, it all depends on how you plan on animating the actual artwork. Because both are functional.
Do you want to draw for RJ's game?
Like I've done in game jams, I've done straight up watercolored, captured off a DSLR, and then you can just place the art asset on it. You have to do some. I don't know if you have to do a little bit of work inside of Photoshop to make the backgrounds transparent, so that you don't capture the actual background that you're drawing on or the medium you're drawing on. Unless you're doing like actual concept art. But when it comes to like animating characters, as long as you can kind of come up with like a 4-part run cycle of like where the arms move and where like the other parts move, like you can kind of use the in-games, depending on what you're using as an actual in-game engine, you are able to animate limbs to a certain extent just using basic drawings, like Adobe Flash. So pixel art is hard, it is super time consuming. So if you're it's like a first time, like you'd have to do basically Earthbound to like, or no, sorry, not Earthbound, Toby Fox's game, blanking on Undertale. Like you have to basically do Undertale and RPG Maker as like a first time game to actually like get something out substantial. Because when you start doing stuff like that's like Fez or Terraria, where it's like 16-bit or even 32-bit, those take a copious amount of time as a pixel artist to do that all and to animate it. Just as a game developer,
like having to place every single pixel and then animate.
Yeah. I would suggest.
Well, we can go ahead and come back.
Shootkapow should try participating in a global game jam.
Go ahead.
In like January, or any game jam, just to start getting some compositional and working with teams and in-game engines and figuring out what Unity and Unreal and Game Maker is all about. Anyways, back to the game.
What's game jam?
We'll talk about that on our next break. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And also, can I get foods in? Huh?
That was hold on a second. That was A Spark in the Air, and yeah, this was definitely a different sound than a lot of what we've had so far. This track is called Build It Up.
All right.
And we can talk a little more about it when we come back. Okay, now you can eat more graham crackers, Shootkapow.
Man, now I just can't get my mind off Pikmin now. Like, I was thinking of the level design and how they reused some of the areas. Like, in the first Pikmin game, the Forest of Hope is the first area you get to after the impact site, which is just a tutorial level. And yeah, that what was I about to say? They reused that in Pikmin 2 as the Awakening Wood. It's just like a reskin of the map. And they did the same thing with, I think it's called A Distant Spring, is like the fourth area. And they reused that as the Perplexing Pool in the third area on Pikmin 2.
Ryan, you're getting a little preview of what I think most of our Pikmin episode is going to be like.
And then
I'm listening to Build It Up on Pikmin.
Yeah, so anyway, the fourth area, which is the post-game area in Pikmin 2, they reused the first area and the fifth area, the impact site, and then the final boss, which is literally just the final boss. Yeah, they reused those for the Wistful Wild.
Oh yeah, game jams. I should probably tell you about that, because you were curious.
And then,
So, what a global game jam is that you make a video game in 48 hours using either new assets, pre-built spaghetti code. So you find a team of like 5 people. So you have like a programmer, an artist, a musician, and you have 48 hours to build a game. And usually it's like a couple stage demo or something like that. Sometimes they're really elaborate and really good, and sometimes the game doesn't even compile, but it allows you to actually work with people and write music and things like that, and actually work with people and start to get a taste of what game development's actually like if you want to go into that field.
That sounds really cool.
And
yeah, I'm actually surprised.
So I don't know if like
this to you before. I've heard about these quite a bit in the.
So every year.
Yeah, go ahead, Ren.
Global Game Jam is every year in like the end of January, and it's the whole entire world. So I'm sure there's a Texas team that you can join. Either at this point it's remote, but there might even be an in-person one next year that you could actually go and stay there at some place for 48 hours and build a game with people in person, and then you actually get an idea to like what DAW it works and how things go. I may suggest using an actual DAW to make your music instead of flat.io, just for in the actual sense of making the music exportable rather than just the MIDI instruments. But that's, I don't know, 9 months from now.
A good buddy of mine actually bought me a copy last year of FL Studio. Prof. Jeff, actually, I can name drop him.
Figure out how to use it.
And this summer, Shootkapow and I are going to sit down and really dig in and learn FL. Because I think that, since we own it and it's like a full-featured system, I think it'll be a good one for him to springboard into. And
cool.
You can also, if you wanted to, Shootkapow, you could export some of your MIDIs from Flat and import them into FL, and you can replace them. I think that's Ryan. You've actually done that with a couple of his tracks, haven't you?
I have. That's how I sent you back the ones, and then I had to do some changing of the velocity and things like that because it doesn't export velocity. But you can definitely do a deep dive and change out instruments and see how you like it and mix and master.
All right, well, let's go ahead and come back. Pause your chewing for just a second, and then when Ryan starts talking, you can chew again. I had to pause for a second because Shootkapow is going to refill his water. You're getting some behind-the-scenes stuff here, listeners. Yeah, but it's.
I would be so intrigued with a webcam.
You don't want to see my face every week. The pixelated version that Ben did and the cartoon version that Carlos did are perfectly suitable. I'd much rather my real life face look like that. But yeah, so this Shootkapow is almost back. So you're 2 hours behind us, is that right?
1. So it's 8:30 right now.
1. Okay.
Sorry, it's 9. Sorry, it's 9:30 right now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I'm back, boys.
All right.
Exciting. Fight in the yard.
Any words for Build It Up before we move on to the next track?
Not really. It's just cool.
And that was Build It Up. And I really, really like this track. It puts me in mind of nothing so much as a dwarven mine. All right, there you go. So next we're going to listen to Fight in the Yard.
Imagine it's a cutscene theme.
Okay, no.
It's there's no actual fighting. They're just hugging.
I stole your quarters.
Give. I will probably be done in about 30 minutes. We talked a lot.
We did talk a lot. That is a thing that.
But we're on the home stretch, I think. So.
Oh man, I recorded a podcast with Volt Supreme recently. So some of these tracks will be on Volt Supreme's Synth VGM Dreamstream machine. Some of my favorites.
Very nice. Yeah.
Shout out.
And we went for 4.5 hours.
I'll bet.
Because after we recorded, after we recorded the Catlandia stuff, and it was 6 songs, and he's like, "Okay, now let's do our episode based on cat music." I'm like, "Sweet." And so like beforehand, he's like, so how many tracks do you have? I'm like, I don't know, 5, 6. He's like, okay. I was hoping we were going to do 10 each. I was like, oh, I got to get some songs. Like, so 20 songs. Oh, that was yeah, so it ended up being a 2-parter.
Yeah, I have learned that for an hour of audio, you're probably going to be recording for 2 or 2.5 hours, and we had like 3.5 hours for our 2-part, 10 tracks each episode. So yeah, I can just imagine. But all right, so Shootkapow, we're going to listen to a little bit of Fight in the Yard, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Oh, you're just starting this? Okay,
yeah.
I'll dial it back. This is an intense track. Someone's like beating the drum here.
Yeah. That is Shootkapows' fingers on the entertainment center. He has no concept for how the sound waves travel through the wood and into the microphone at a very, very loud velocity.
This is
so
more
sound design.
Here's what that looks like. That's what that looks like.
Nice.
I'm showing him the waveform.
I see.
What was your question, Shootkapow?
So how do you do sound design?
Well, there's 2 different ways, or I guess 3 different ways of doing sound design. There is ADSR synthetic sound design. So that's using a synthesizer, and you're using the attack, delay, sustain, and the other part of the R that I'm blanking on. But it's basically using a synthesizer itself to make the noises like they did back with the original video games. So you either use a triangle wave, a pulse wave, a sine wave, and so then you just use the attack or the ADSR to change whether or not it opens or closes, and you use envelopes. So you use all the components of a synthesizer to actually just create a sound. So instead of using it for a melodic reason, like they did like with most music, it's like they use the NES, they use it to make noise. So that is the first part of sound design. The other aspect of sound design is recording a sound effect and then either it being the sound effect you want and that being it, or going into it in post-production and using different techniques such as delay or reverb or pitching it or slowing it down or altering it with many different ways to make it sound the way you want it to. And then there's the third style, which is sound editing, which is it's the same idea as that, but you're taking pre-made sounds or pre-made sound effects, which is what I do a lot of. So it's like I have a sound library, and so I'll take a very small snippet of a sound and then I'll start layering other sounds on top of it to make one big sound or one long sound, but it's all made of other sounds. So it's like I'll listen to the sound of a fan, but I'll just take the very little bit of a fan and then I'll add it and I'll layer the sound of a sword underneath of it, and then maybe I'll make the sound of like a bottle of water being crushed. And so I just start layering all those sounds to make one cohesive sound. So those are the 3 ways that you create sound design.
Yeah, a lot of it is thinking outside the box. I've done, I guess this is taking me back. I have done a little bit of sound design, I guess, in my day. I did some radio work with my dad's radio station back when I was in high school, and I, at one point, was doing like a Sunday thing, and my concept was there was a book that was sort of supported or produced by the band members of DC Talk, but it was really written by folks from a group called The Voice of the Martyrs, and it was a book about like Christian martyrs. And my Sunday afternoon,
I saw Dave Musselman was actually in our church like a month ago from Voice of the Martyrs.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, yeah, Small World. I don't know if you've ever seen this book, but the cover looks like the cover of the Jesus Freak album from back in the 90s. And it's okay. I think it's actually called Jesus Freaks is what the name of the book was. But I've
seen that book.
I would read the story of it and then put a little bit of music down under it. And at one point, I was reading the story of Stephen, the first martyr, and I wanted to throw in some sound effects. And it was gritty. It was real. It wasn't like a for kids or cartoony take on things. So obviously it's about martyrs, so it's going to get dark. I was looking for some sound effects for the actual like stoning scene, and of course you're not going to go through. And I'm using CDs, sound libraries, because this is again late '90s, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And the radio station had all these CDs, and so I'm just looking through and listening to them, and looking for something that sounds like a guy getting hit with a rock, and. First, I found an Angry Crowd sample, which was nice for the crowd thing. What I eventually settled on was a boxing match. It was just audio of like the punches and the grunts from a boxing match, and it was perfect. And I found a couple of specific spots in it, took those out, just cut and pasted in SoundForge, which is like the older professional version of Audacity.
Yeah,
cut and pasted from
SoundForge.
I had
SoundForge, yeah.
Put them in under the Angry Crowd, and it sounded like exactly what I had pictured in my mind. And so it's really cool when you can like find the different things like Ryan's talking about and put them together, and it comes together in a way that you imagined. And sometimes it comes from an unlikely place.
Yeah. A lot of Catlandia sounds are like swords and punches and things like that have all been manipulated and edited into different ways. But yeah, my dad still works at a radio station. He's on an AM radio station.
What does he do?
He is a morning show, I guess, disc jockey.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Positive. It's like AM 930 The Light. My dad is basically he plays music and then reads scripture and does little like 2-minute sermons and things like that for like 6 to 8 a.m. for the daily morning commuters.
My dad has done some morning show work, but where he really shines is he has a Saturday night rock and roll show that goes, and now it goes for 4 hours. It used to go for 6 hours, and you can listen to it on Radio FM. I need to find it. I can link to it or send you a link if you're ever interested, but it's like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s rock, so it's like oldies. And but he also does a lot of, or at one point he doesn't do it as much anymore, but he did a lot of the production work. He would edit a lot of other people's commercials and find music and find sounds that went with them. And so that he's really where I learned a lot of just my basics for this stuff. And that's cool that your dad's also in radio. How long has he been doing it?
He went to radio school like in the 70s, and then he kind of did part-time radio at places he like Radio Free stuff, and it wasn't until probably 2013, 12 that he actually got like a job getting paid to do radio. So he was already in his mid-50s or something.
Yeah, I think my dad went to radio school in the 60s, so he's a little bit older, and he did. He pretty much did that for the rest of his life after that. He moved around in different places and did different things. But we are rambling again. This is super interesting. Shootkapow, did we answer your question about what sound design is?
Yes.
Well, cool. All right, let's go ahead and come back. This is a really fun track, so All right. It'll be cool to hear about it. That was Fight in the Yard from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint.
It's a statement on our society and truths that are really true in this world. And we need to open our eyes that we live in a world that is flat and that the government, the government, not just a government, but the government is trying to keep us out of the utopia that is in Antarctica, because Antarctica is a giant 500-foot ice wall, like in Game of Thrones, that surrounds the whole planet. And the North Arctic is the center of the planet, and the Earth is flat.
Well, what? The next track is Twilight Gravel.
Oh, is it? Oh, I wanted to diatribe to the wrong song. Oh,
you know what? We're gonna go out of order a little bit because now I can't not go to The World Is Flat next, and then when we come back, you can talk about this song.
Well,
and
you
then
know
tell
what?
Me...
You can just cut it.
That's right. I can cut it.
You can just cut it. Edit.
Snip.
Abort.
Not so much. Next, we're going to listen to Twilight Gravel. And when we come back, we're going to listen a little bit to the story of this song and where that title comes from. Okay, now continue your thought.
my thought of The World Is Flat? No, I just put my foot in my mouth. That's all.
No, that was amazing, dude. That was... I've got to cut it. And that was wonderful.
That is...
actually a flat earther thing?
Yeah, that is. That is the basic
everything
idea.
He said is actually a flat earther thing.
Yeah. You see, there's actually the reason why the government won't let you go to the Antarctica and it's only a research station is because it surrounds the whole planet is Antarctica. And beyond Antarctica is a perfect utopia society where all the rich lizard people, now the lizard people's added in, is where like the true, like that's where like Jeff Bezos lives. All right. That's where the billionaires live.
All right. We're listening now to Twilight Gravel.
Tight. I'll turn it on.
An animation YouTuber I watch, he made a video about a thing today. It was like...
The YouTuber is called The Odd Ones Out. Yeah, go ahead.
He made a video about apparently this thing that's going on. It's like there's this trend on TikTok, like people trying to shift their consciousness into alternate realities.
It's based on the multiverse theory in physics. But yeah, these people believe that you can actually like astral project yourself into the consciousness of one of your other selves in one of these alternate realities and live in that reality.
Which is stupid because that's just lucid dreaming with extra steps.
Yeah.
Like, more people need to know about lucid dreaming.
Shootkapow has gotten on a lucid dreaming kick lately. How's that going? Have you lucid dreamed?
Once.
Cool.
And my alarm woke me up then. Which is very unfortunate.
Listen to this track now, because I want you to talk about it. This is a cool track. We're at about the 120 mark with the...
She doesn't like me.
With a sort of... I never know what to call this, but it's like a robotic sort of...
Oh yeah, I'm at the same part. It's a synth.
That's not the melody.
No. It's not Natural Killer Cycle. This sounds like Xenoblade.
This guitar has got a really kind of Arabian scale thing going on.
Those Xenoblade strings, though. I love Xenoblade strings so much.
This does sound kind of like something you would hear in like the more mechanized levels of Xenoblade. Yeah. Or areas, I should say.
Man, I really like Bowser's Fury music. I don't know why my brain does that. It just goes off on random things.
Well, a lot of people's brains go off on random things, but because you are still so young, you do not have the filter to be like, that is a cool thought. But I should not say that thought right at this minute because it doesn't necessarily fit. So we get a lot of little non sequiturs with you, and I think it's fun.
Honestly, I just do it because it's funny.
It is. Our listeners get a lot out of the banter.
Usually I just try and tell jokes, but yeah, that works too.
Yeah, but when I try and tell jokes, it doesn't always turn out very funny. Oh, all right.
'Cause you're a dad.
Sick burn. All right, let's go ahead and come back.
I prefer passive-aggressive comments that you're never quite sure whether or not it's sarcasm or true.
Nugget.
Well, that's because you're Canadian, and you can say those things and still get away with being stereotypically polite.
Nugget.
Oh, yeah.
Or nugget, yes.
Yeah, sure. Nugget. Oh, so shocking that Nugget's from Canada.
Canon.
All right, let's get back
Make that canon.
to...
It is canon, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Catlandia's in Canada.
Nice.
Catlandia. Ooh.
Yeah.
Where did the cat go? Why
Okay,
does she keep disappearing?
the cat's right there on the screen. Look at the cat. Nugget is enjoying the music on the headphones. The cat headphones. Okay, now we are back. That was Twilight Gravel from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint. So, yeah, as Ryan just very eloquently puts, we are about to listen to the not only a track from Catlandia, but also the title theme for a global movement. Wait, is it not? Is it a globe? No.
No.
It's not. It's not. Anyway, this is the world.
Planar.
The planar movements. This is the world is flat.
It's like people saying, I don't use pronouns, and then saying pronouns.
Oh no, I is a pronoun. I mean I am a pronoun. No, wait, grammar.
Yeah. And people just don't when people
Grammar's
just don't
hard.
understand what a pronoun is, they're just trying
Grammar
to be
is
jerks.
hard. A pronoun is a noun that has gotten out of amateur status.
Yes.
Lost
in
amateur status.
the words of Bill Watterson, a pronoun is a noun that's lost its amateur status.
All joking aside, this track is intense and cool.
Yeah.
I like these strings, which Shootkapow always relates to Xenoblade.
Yes. Xenoblade.
But in this instance, it does sound like a Mechon showdown.
Yeah.
This was also another song for the MMO one of those tracks that is like, ooh, I like this one. But I made the song twice as long.
What's the story behind the MMO?
The MMO?
He said, what's the story in the MMO?
What's the story behind the MMO?
You mean the story, like, not the plot, but the story behind him?
Yeah.
If you just type into your Google's Legion Eternal War.
So I think he was actually away from the...
You can find the game.
I think he was away from the headphones when you mentioned earlier that you had started, like, that you had developed for this Call of Duty mod.
It was Command and Conquer mod.
Or Command and Conquer mod.
The Command and Conquer, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was basically a fan made of like a new Command and Conquer game that never went anywhere. And I think I was only in the project for like a few months before it went dead. But I wrote songs for it. No. But yeah, the MMO that I was working on was a Legion, the Eternal War. And I couldn't handle the development cycle of it because I just wasn't confident the game was ever going to come out. And they started taking pledges and kickstarting and taking people's money, and I was like, I don't know if this game's ever gonna take off. I'm gonna abort from this project because I don't want my name attached to a game that's took money and might never come out. So I'm out.
Oh, good on you, man. That's because that's some shady stuff, and it could be hard when you've devoted time to a certain project and you've like kind of got a dog in the fight, but you don't want to. It's good to know when to cut ties. That's a very useful skill in the real world.
Yeah. So like they relaunched again for like the fourth time of like taking people's money. So I like, because he always says, okay, we're gonna, you know, there was the first time I was in the project, and then the project went dead, and then it revived again, and then this time it kind of went further, and then it went dead again, because like the person who runs the project is kind of toxic as a person. So the third time that it booted back up, that was like the third. Basically, he'd build a team. They start building the game. Everybody leaves. Builds a new team. Get further on the game. Everybody leaves. And so this is the fourth time that he's built a team. And this time I was like, I didn't even try and like after the third time when he actually started taking money, and then the project went like dead or silent for like 8 months, and then they relaunched their Discord and started being like, yeah, let's take money again. And I was like, oh man, I'm scared. Anyways, my song is done in my head.
Yeah. Okay. It's done. Mine too. All right.
So
you had a thought and you lost it?
No, I didn't. I'm just debating whether or not to like.
Go ahead. We can have one more tangent before we come back.
All right. Well, I've got this thing with some people on Twitter that we might be doing this summer. It's like a sort of Minecraft server thingy with like some plot and stuff, like a roleplay thing. And
so you're like injecting your own story into Minecraft.
Yes. But the twist is it's going to be in hardcore mode, so if we die, then we die. Unless there's, some plot stuff.
It's one way to cut the story short. Did this song with its awesome moody ambience make you think about all that?
No, not really. Just
you totally could have just built on that and just, yeah, this song is so cool. I think I'm going to use it for the theme song. All right.
The thing is, like, whenever I do a project or something, it usually just sort of flops and dies. I don't know why.
That is not uncommon, especially when you're young, but even in the world. But, as Ryan just said.
Every single time.
But as Ryan just said, sometimes projects don't work out. And then
Catlandia is the first one that, other than Catlandia and Pandora, those are the only two games that I've worked on that have launched out of who knows how many projects. Like, I've done a lot of game jams and I've started a lot of projects, but usually... especially as like here's a piece of advice from a composer standpoint: don't join projects that are early in development, because what's going to end up happening is you start writing music for a game that is 4 years away from being made. The music that you write is 4 years later. Like, obviously Catlandia was my very first one, so definitely no issues there, and I knew the project was eventually going to come out. Like, we rebuilt the game 3 times before it came out. But, like, when it comes to, like, I just want my music in a game, it's best to, like, try and find an indie project that's, like, already has a demo out. Or, because the hard part is about something already having a demo out is they probably already have, like, an artist. But, so that's why it's really hard, and you have to really kind of pick and choose your projects and pick something that actually has, like, a good amount of work done, but it's at that stage of work is done, but we don't have music left, because audio is usually the last thing that comes into a game. So otherwise, you're going to be waiting on a project and hoping that it pans out. And also, don't be afraid to pull your music if it doesn't work out and just repurpose it.
Yeah. Every you don't really learn from success. Success can give you a boost and can kind of carry you forward, but where you learn is from failure and or from hardship or from struggle. You don't necessarily have to fail, but if a project just like comes together super easy, then that can be nice, but you don't necessarily you don't really grow from it. But when there's some struggle, when you have to really work for things and work through things, that's where the learning comes from.
And I think the whole Minecraft hardcore thing, server, I think we're sort of going through that because the only thing we really have to keep this alive right now, because I don't have Discord yet, is a Twitter group chat, which they do have a sort of trend of dying off. But like we still got 5 or so people regularly active in the chat.
And that's another thing that's good, is having a team of people that are kind of dedicated to it. So that's also good.
We've tried finding some people, and like the of us who are like sort of more active in the plot and stuff, and we're here since the very beginning. Like, we're still sort of here, and we're if some more people leave the project, like we'll probably try and see if we can find more later on. I don't know, when it's actually closer to development and they're not going to get bored and leave.
All right. Well, good luck with that, and we'll see what we can. We'll see what we can do. Let's go ahead and get back into the talking. We'll have one more song after this, and but yeah, let's talk about. Yeah. All right, and that was "The World Is Flat." All right, Ryan, tell us about this track. The name of this track is Hammered Concrete. And yeah, so let's go ahead and take a listen to this, and when we come back, I will be very enthusiastic to hear Ryan's enthusiasm for this particular piece.
Oh, you're about to get ready to rip and tear.
Yeah, I remember when I heard this, I was like, okay, yeah, this is metal, man.
Oh, it's metal. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is another prog track that goes on a journey.
All right, yeah.
I don't remember if it was either Nate or Dan or Volts that said, it's like, I have never before complimented someone on putting together a xylophone and electric guitar.
I don't know either, but that sounds like something that would come out. That sounds like something that would come out of our community.
Yeah, this first section is like
Mortal Kombat.
Is like somewhat inspired by Doom and Gent.
That sounds like Xenoblade. The night.
Everything goes into Xenoblade eventually.
Definitely hear your symphonic metal influence in this one. I really like this.
Yeah, and then it goes into
piano
like
riff here.
Castlevania. Yeah, it was hard for me to find the balance of like where to sit the guitar to keep the intensity, because it's such a hopeful and happy little riff.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Around the 2-minute mark, it goes into my Castlevania inspired violin riff. And then it goes into my Between the Buried and Beneath Big Top Circus, which is a play on because you're the top of a tower. So it's my Big Top.
Oh, man. This sounds like a creepy carnival at 2:30. I definitely hear that Castlevania thing you were talking about.
It's got that. It has like this little vibe that I want to go clap, clap, shimmy, shimmy, clap, clap.
So anyway,
yeah, Shootkapow, there was one more thing. What's that?
Xylophone and guitar.
So that Minecraft hardcore server thing, one of the people who was involved in the project, their Twitter account actually got suspended, so they could only really communicate through like the Discord with one of the other members. They're actually the two people who were sort of chatting about the plot together, mostly. So yeah, their Twitter account got suspended, so they just made a new one, and so they're back now.
Yeah, nice workaround there.
Are you in the Nightwish-esque guitar solo?
And then back to the xylophone. I think we're like exactly the same place you are.
To circle back. Yeah.
This is really cool, man.
Also, my house that I have planned out for this server requires a lot of materials from the Nether.
Yeah, we talked about that several episodes ago.
Yes.
I was talking about like nether grass and nether sky.
Yes.
Well, let's not go there again.
Anyway, yeah. And also materials from the new like underworld that we have in Minecraft now.
Speaking of materials and building and tools and stuff.
Concrete.
That was Hammered Concrete, our final in-episode track of the night, not counting our play-out. Okay, I'm going to say all that again with Shootkapow not squirming around in the chair. That was Hammered Concrete from Catlandia, Crisis at Fort Pawprint, our last in-episode track before we get into our still as yet undetermined play-out track. Okay, so the way this works, Ryan, is again, I'll say play very good games. Shootkapow says be very good people, and then you can say keep listening to very good music, and that's basically it.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we get to that?
Nothing other than my life is a dumpster fire, and thank you for having me.
No, man. Okay.
All right.
Okay. What is our closeout track going to be?
I think the best way to describe a tease is with a teaser. And this was our teaser. This is the Catlandia trailer theme for our first game trailer, which I wrote for a game jam for a game that didn't work very well. But I figured, hey, while I'm repurposing music for everything else, let's repurpose this for this too.
All right, then. Well, I guess until next time, everyone, as always, play very good games.
Be very good people.
And keep listening to very good music, yeah.
And that's a wrap.
Was that auto-tune?
No, that's my sweet audible chocolate. You know it.
Oh, all right. That is perfect.
All right, I'm gonna hit stop then.